Hello and welcome to the Airscape podcast. We just restarted the recording there because something was going wonky. We've just wrapped up a couple of podcasts there last night and today we're doing one again. So we've been talking football. It's the usual suspects into the football. Myself, Big Crippy, Festy.
How you doing, Dave?
Oh, good lad. Just finished one there. A wee retro footballer.
How'd it go?
It went well, lad. Really good. It'll be out after this one, so I will not say too much about it.
I will. We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. But we did
Say
another
nothing.
wee retro football episode there, boys. They're definitely one of my favourites to research. But as it is the football and all that, they're sort of carry on. This is we were doing monthly wrap ups basically before the lockdown hit. So this is going to be a current events one. We've obviously done plenty of like historical topics when it comes to football, but
Yeah.
this will be a sort of current one. So obviously the football world went into absolute tits with the lockdown, as did everything else, but we decided we'll need to talk about what is going on with coronavirus and its impact on football. Just a wee general chat, a wee free form chat about what's happening, where football goes from here, and the impact and on different things and everything. So I've read a few talking points out, and we'll just maybe try and cover them within the next hour.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Aye. So coronavirus, lads, it's shade.
It's not good, lad.
It's not good. Obviously,
I didn't get to enjoy any lockdown. I've been working the whole way through it. Big key worker, me.
big key worker, Dev. Aye. It's been pretty shit, but it sort of seems at least a little bit that the world is maybe trying to get back to a little bit of normality. Maybe Britain and the UK maybe a little bit less so than elsewhere. Obviously, a lot of the European countries, which was kind of the epicenter, have lowered their death toll. I know there's still quite a high death toll in the UK, but political stances maybe aside, trying to avoid all that sort of carry on about what's going on. Everything, even in Ireland here, things are getting a wee bit back to normal at least anyway. So, there's a lot more important things going on. Like there's people have died and all that sort of carry on. It's not the most fun topic to talk about, but football's a business, and there's impacts. So
There is.
So obviously it's the 6th of June here when we're recording this one. We'll be back up and running within the next week or week and a half. But football's come back at least in some capacity with the return of the Bundesliga.
Bundesliga's back.
Bundesliga took the jump. Germany seemed to cope quite well with their coronavirus situation, more so than a lot of other countries. And they took the leap to get back to be the first league back to finish out their league.
I think once the whole thing kicked off, the whole German government and people just were like, right, lockdown right away. That was it.
Pretty much.
So
they dealt with it quite well.
So they're sort of maybe ahead in that regard. So yeah, they're back up and going, and what the Premier League now.
The Premier League's back training. Players are back
Contact
training in
and
small
stuff.
groups with, I think it's 5 they're allowed to train at a time and things, isn't it?
They're
But I
putting
think
the
they're-
team in small groups, but they're gearing back up to come
I
back.
think they're gearing back up. There's talk of friendlies been played maybe in the next sort of couple of days.
Liverpool played an inter-squad friendly there at Anfield the other day. They played basically just 11 aside on the pitch, but just within the team.
Yeah.
So so the Bundesliga have took the approach of like heavy testing and everything. That's obviously going to be a big thing going forward about keeping on top of nobody testing positive. I don't think anybody has tested positive in Germany so far, and I think it's maybe week 3 now of matches basically in Germany.
Yeah.
They're rolling in rightly. One thing that was sort of talked about when nobody knew what way this was all going to turn out really was the sort of null and void carry on.
Well, I find, just quickly on it, I find some of the rules quite funny. That the coaching staff and things are, wearing masks and the subs are socially distancing and things. But then, you go into a changing room after, at half time saying it's an enclosed place with, 22 sweaty men.
And, you're marking men on the corner.
No,
like, there's no social distancing in corners.
No.
It's all a bit strange. Like, I mean, there's no, like, team celebrations and stuff. And it's like, okay, fair enough. But you're going to be marking them on the corner in a minute or two. Like, so it doesn't really make an awful... I think they're just trying to... They're trying to limit it as best they can, obviously.
Aye, that's it. Like, limit what they can limit, because they're not going to be able to stop people tackling each other in the pitch, but they can stop the subs from sitting too close. And
It's a difficult thing to try and... Such a weird virus, it's so strange the way it is. People are taking different symptoms. You develop.
Aye, some people are fine and some people are hospitalised.
It's hard to know what way it goes on, because you could pick it up 2 or 3 weeks beforehand and not develop the symptoms to 2 weeks after you get it, which is kind of scary in a way, obviously, but it's like anything, even like what you do if you're working now, or if you're like, with anybody, trying to keep 2 meters is harder than you actually think.
No,
it's almost. It's actually almost
impossible. We're doing our bit in here.
Oh, of course. Nice to see.
I'd say I'm 2 meters away from you, Dave.
Maybe a stretch, like. I don't know.
But I was just going to say it's not maybe ideal that football's maybe not the most important thing to have back, but sometime or another it's probably going to happen in one way.
The thing is that you can't just shut everything down forever. It's not, you have to. There's a risk with it, like, but you have to try and get back to some sort of normality for everybody.
That's it. Like
at some stage.
At some stage, everyone will be going back to work, and everyone will,
I've noticed it here. The roads are way more busy, and there's more people back at it.
It has to.
I was working through the whole scenario, like we were working through it. But I remember just when the whole lockdown happened, like the people on the roads was almost ghost towns. Like I could get to work in about 5-10 minutes quicker, and like the amount of cars you could count almost on your two hands, like it would be still in single digits by the time I made a 20-minute trip to work. Whereas, as you say, in the last 2-3 weeks, it's back out as normal. Like, people are sort of. People have been out of work for 5-6 weeks. We get a wee bit off topic here, but like they're gonna have to, they're having to sort of nearly almost go back against their will because you need money, like.
Yeah.
There's
a few things around it too. Like you don't obviously. Everyone will probably come out at some stage. There's a lot of mixed reports about it. Like obviously they were sort of trying to sell it as like it's an old people thing, and then became sort of even young people with underlying health conditions and stuff like that. The one sort of maybe positive, or maybe not positive is the best way to describe it, but the one sort of thing that you do have is that these are mostly young athletes that are in peak physical condition, and
well, saying that, like, if you think of the Premier League starting back up, and like a boy like Roy Hodgson who's near an 80-year-old man, or Ancelotti's not young, and
I was going to say, like, obviously player wise you've got young men in the sort of prime of their physical peak, basically. So the likelihood, I don't really know how it all works. I don't think anybody has a fucking clue how much what's going to happen with this and the sort of effects and who it affects, because it's so varying. But obviously young physically fit men, it may have less of an impact on their immediate health, basically. Like, the risk, I would say, I don't know, I'm not privy to it, but I mean the risk of severe health issues to somebody who's 24 years of age, who's a professional athlete, is probably quite small. Like, there hasn't been any notable deaths or anything. Like, you've heard the likes of Paulo Dybala has had it a couple of times, or he's tested positive for it a couple of times. I don't know how that works. Maybe it's just still in the system, but no major.
I was just going to say, I seen that statement come out a few weeks back, but some of these things, the way they're portrayed, it was sort of saying as if the title of the article was kind of like he has recontracted it 4 times in the last 6 weeks, which is not correct. It's more or less, as you say, it's still in the system. He's been tested over the span of 5 or 6 weeks. He still had it. So what to say, we still don't really know how it all works because it's still early days. But But
as you were saying, Dave, the knock-on effect of that is, and obviously maybe no direct impact with players possibly, but you have a manager with the likes of Roy Hodgson, even Klopp's in his 50s, and there has been that has been more prevalent. People that are older have had a worse time with this, and there is the likes of Roy Hodgson, Carlo Ancelotti and stuff, who are older gentlemen, and they could be. And then there's the other thing of you don't know what an individual player situation is.
I like the backlash that Troy Deeney has received, and that Kante have received for saying that they're not coming back for their sort of family and to protect their family.
Young children, you don't know what way to
young children, and pregnant. Kante's wife's pregnant or something, and so he doesn't want to be bringing any of that home. So I think he's sticking with the lockdown for a while longer. But the backlash they were getting, that, oh, you're earning this much money, and you should be out there playing. What?
Nah, it doesn't make any sense.
No,
money doesn't.
It's like money. It's personal. Like, it's his, it's his personal choice that if he feels it's not safe for his family, he can make that choice. Like, and who's anyone to say otherwise? Like,
the one thing, hopefully, within that is that they're playing in an enclosed ecosystem. So if they're going to have to be quite stringent with multiple tests a week.
Oh yes.
Constant testing of players, management, staff. even the likes of maybe TV broadcasting and reporters and stuff, and I know that that's all being quite limited on game days and stuff as far as the Bundesliga is gone anyway. So
I think it's 70 people
I heard
allowed in the stadium.
I've heard mixed reports, lad. There was maybe like 200, but on game day, so that would maybe be like
A few people in at the start of the day to set up,
yeah,
but they'll be away by the time the next
groundsmen, maybe media, all that sort of carry on.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult situation. But again, they are if the testing is quite stringent and multiple times a week or whatever, you are playing in an enclosed ecosystem. You're not exposing yourself till any outside factors. If the 20 teams with all their members are being tested at quite a high rate, and all you're doing is sort of going to training, staying at home, and then going to play a match, the likelihood then of contracting it is lessened, obviously, because I would say most football players have like an insular life anyway. They can't really go dandering around the streets or anything like that anyway. They're quite enclosed anyway, which is of benefit in this situation. They are playing in an enclosed ecosystem, so they're not really exposed to outside. It maybe then will be more so the case for maybe possibly further down the line when things open up a bit. Something like that there could be a bit more risky, basically. There's a couple of other things. So what happens then? Do you reckon, what way do we go about this then? If probably most likely when a player tests positive, what way does that approach it?
You have to isolate your whole team and then miss a couple of game weeks, and that could throw a whole spanner in the works.
I heard some talk with you treat him like you would treat an injured player, essentially. Obviously, there would have to be some sort of isolation there, but it's sort of I think there was some sort of talk of it in Germany. Well, he's now an injured player, like somebody that maybe an ankle sprain, whatever like that there. So you treat it as that. He is then that, and now not in your squad for maybe the 2-week isolation period.
Aye.
But difficult when you hear the likes of somebody Paulo Dybala who maybe has it in their system, and then you don't know what the infection rate is and what the
chances of spreading it around the squad.
Does it lay dormant in you? And then if it does lay dormant in you for a period, are you still a carrier or somebody that does spread it? It's an awkward situation.
I mean, the whole complexity of the virus is just something else as well, because this is what I was thinking as well. If we get back with the football, if someone does test positive during whenever this resumes, what does that mean? Does that mean that that fella's going to isolate for 2 weeks, but what about the players he's just been playing with? Have they now in 1 or 2 weeks, have they developed a couple of weeks back, and they're actually infected, but they've yet to develop the symptoms? So does that mean one player gets positive? Does that mean the whole team has to shut down? I don't know what way that could go.
You don't know how much he has infected anybody around him or anything like that there. But then obviously that would have to be relied on testing.
They'll be tested every couple of days, you'd imagine.
To sort of swing it into a different sport. Obviously, the UFC has started back up again, and quite recently. I think it was maybe a few weeks back. They've been putting on cards pretty much every week. There's a card on tonight. They had a fighter test positive. They were fighting in an empty arena and stuff too. But they had a fighter test positive. Jacare Souza tested positive the week of, and had been in contact with people around him. But they were taking quite heavy precautions with masks and stuff. And he tested positive and then was sent home. But Dana White has been pretty open with the amount of testing he's doing. Dana White himself is being tested I don't know how many times a week. It's ridiculous. Obviously the infection wasn't spread. It was what do you call asymptomatic. So he showed no signs, but came up testing as a positive. So it maybe sort of lends itself to maybe that it was in his system, but maybe he wasn't a spreader of the virus, or with link to the sort of Dybala thing. It maybe still trace amounts maybe still appear in your system, but you may not be a spreader of the virus. It mightn't be contagion. You mightn't be a contagion to other people. But it'll just be interesting to see what way they go forward with.
Another interesting situation, as far as I'm aware, now correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously the Premier League's still going ahead, but the Football League is not.
Well, this is the other thing I was going to definitely get into talking about. Like, there's been quite a
Like,
number
what
of...
way are you going to work with promotion and relegation if
Yeah.
there's no one coming up and down from League 2 and, like, you know,
Yeah.
League 1?
They haven't worked out. Well, I suppose we can sort of maybe segue into some of the football implications. We sort of talked about the testing a good bit there, and that sort of carry on. Obviously, leagues with less... There was the sort of null and void crew that was going around quite a bit.
Well, there's
like,
a few,
you know,
like, I think it was in France, null and void, and the Dutch league, I believe, is null and void.
Yeah, some leagues with...
Although I think the
lesser-
French league, they actually give PSG the title.
I think they give
so,
Ajax a title as well.
aye, so maybe it wasn't null and void, they maybe
Nah.
just called it early.
Called it early. Obviously, a lot of them leagues don't have the financial implications of.
But even in them leagues, you wouldn't be able to keep relegation, surely. Like, if you relegated teams from France without playing all their games, you'd be sued.
Definitely.
The France league would be, you know, the FA would be sued by
There-
all of them
there-
teams.
There
like-
could be a lot of suing going on. Like, you mean,
Oh, there's a lot of suing going. I mean, you know, even teams like if the Premier League finishes, the teams get relegated will sue and will probably be in their rights to sue.
it's a whole.
Because like if you think, you know, maybe if you had 4 or 5 favourable home games coming up and you run into the season and you think, right, we're going to pick up enough points from this to stay up, and you know, all of a sudden you don't have any home games because it's all played, you know.
Yeah, neutral
But,
venues and that.
but the rest of the season, you know, you've already got your home games out of the way against your cities and Liverpool's and Chelsea's, and you were looking forward to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's already sort of caused a bit of a stir with the Scottish League because Celtic were handed, the league was void, but Celtic were handed their 9th straight title, to which, you know, Rangers weren't obviously too impressed by, even though they were behind by a certain amount of points. But you know, still
the gap had opened quite a
the
bit.
gap
there.
had opened a bit, but they were still weren't happy about it. But it also, at the other end of the table, Hearts have now been deemed, I think it's maybe they're deemed relegated, but the owner or one of the directors, whatever at Hearts, she sort of come out and sort of says that they've made investments, you know, with signings in January, and because they've made investments, it should deem them exempt from being put down automatically. So,
But that's true, because them signs they made in January, who's to say they wouldn't have kept them up?
Aye.
You know, but
Aye,
they don't
I
have
know.
a chance to.
I know, but you know the whole.
But then the argument comes in too: if you're not going to relegate anyone, how can you call anyone a champion?
Aye.
You know,
It was.
PSG hadn't mathematically won Ligue 1.
No. It was like I didn't when it started. There was that null and void stuff going around, and I didn't see how
But it is an unprecedented situation.
it is. I didn't see how that you could null and void a season with all the implications that would.
But I thought that the only way, if you were going to end the season and not finish the games, the only way you could do it was null and void. Because there's no way you can finish the season early and start handing out titles, relegations, European places whenever the season's not over.
There's so many.
So the only way that I think if you're not finishing your season that you can do it is null and void.
There's
know,
so many implications.
Scrap it in
to
and
it,
start again next year. Like,
I just didn't see how that you were gonna do this for some of the major leagues. Basically, say Italy, Germany, Spain, and England. They have an awful amount of financial obligations to have them games on, and it could bankrupt quite a substantial amount. And if the top teams go bankrupt in the league, the rest of the league's going to be in dire straits. And there was just.
But even like there was an interview with one of the managers. He was like a League 1 or League 2 manager. I can't remember off the top of my head who he managed. I think it was Wickham possibly. It was the chairman, and he was basically saying the implications that you know. And basically all the games that they have missed, the home games from now to the end of the season, they'd have made about 350 grand, which is the difference between them surviving as a club and going out, you know, going out of business.
That's
Like,
mental. Like,
you know, the gate receipts that they missed out on is what they needed. You know, that money was being counted on to pay the, you know, to cover the club's bills.
Well, everybody from top to bottom, obviously, some of the richer clubs will be less affected, but it'll still have a massive implication on what they're doing going forward. Like they will, like as the TV revenue and stuff is like paid
bigger clubs, like people are saying, like the likes of United, people are saying they should take this season with all their money and go out and get all the bargain by, you know, go mad in the window because people are going to be going for 30-40 million less because clubs need the money.
Aye.
You know.
But there's
so bigger clubs aren't going to be as affected.
Well, there will be too, like, you know, because you don't know how this is going to affect everything surrounding the club. Like, you take in the fact that, you know, Old Trafford is 70-something thousand people or whatever it is, and you don't have them gate receipts coming in, and then, you know, that's a match day revenue. There's no, you have a revenue stream there that is no longer there. There's talk of like TV deals and maybe money having to go back to the companies like Sky and BT because of the lack of coverage and
plus the free games they're giving out.
Free games that they're giving out and stuff like that there too. So it's a complete. There's going to be knock-ons and ramifications for this for pretty much everybody. Like, it's
in every facet of football. Like it could normalise the transfer market, but
definitely.
It also just the way the leagues are going to have to work it's crazy, and there'll be lawsuits everywhere. You're telling me that if West Ham go down this season, they're not going to be trying to sue the Premier League. Of course they are. And they're within their right too.
There's other sort of knock-on implications, things that you don't think of, and I can't remember the team now. This is going to baffle me, but there's a team that obviously went down to the Championship and still don't really know what they're going to do entirely with the Championship. But it is their final year of parachute payments, so it's their last year, and they've got a chance to get back up. I can't remember who it was, but it's their last year of parachute payments. So obviously, the year that you go into the Championship, you get parachute payments from the Premier League to keep your club afloat, so that you don't go into the Championship in debt for 3 years. You get quite a substantial one. You get quite a substantial earning. To go down the first year, second year is reduced, and then third year is the smallest amount that you get. It's maybe like 8 million or something. I'm not entirely sure what the figures are, but you'll get money. But now, if the season's null and void, that doesn't carry into next season. I would nearly be 100% sure it doesn't. And you were maybe relying on that, or maybe relying on the fact that you would have these this year to get yourself promoted.
But there's other crazy situations too. If you think about it, like at the end of June, Hakim Ziyech is supposed to be moving to Chelsea.
Yeah.
That deal's already finalised.
Yeah.
It's done. The contract signed.
Mm-hmm.
All the players that are out of contract come June 30th.
I think that they're, from what I know, or for what I've listened to, apparently they're going to be give teams a bit of leeway there and give them small contract extensions. So like an extra month. The problem with that then is like.
But then if the player doesn't want to sign it.
If the player doesn't want to sign it, or is the player like, well, I'm meant to be going, like, for example, I don't know.
Like Hakim Ziyech turns around, I'm meant to be going to Chelsea, so. Why would I play?
His situation is maybe a little bit more eased because the Dutch league has
folded.
But
then that is the implication too. Like the Dutch league is folded, so he'll obviously want to go to Chelsea as soon as possible. And the deal was supposed to be finalised on the 30th of June. Like if he arrives at Chelsea and starts training with the team to Chelsea, let him play, because that's hardly fair. He shouldn't have played in the run into the season.
That's a very fair point. Like there's a lot of implications around this. There's players,
and there's manager contracts that are running out on the 30th of June, player contracts running out on the 30th of June, staff contracts running out, and it's maybe not as affected in the Premier League. But if you're a League 2 team with 8 of your first team squads contracts up in the summer, and you have no money coming in to re-sign them till what do you do?
And maybe
are you gonna
and maybe a player that's, for example, a player that's maybe done well in League 2, but he's been signed by a Championship team. Is he going to want to extend, the extra month to keep a League 2 team up or whatever, and then risk injury? And then,
like there's all these crazy ramifications that so far have not been settled. Like
no, it's going to be a weird time, definitely.
And obviously we still have no idea when the transfer window's reopening, and like a lot of these players that are out of contract on June 30th, if they don't get their extensions or whatever else, are they just unemployed for the next 6 months until the transfer window reopens? What happens there? Will they be able to sign for clubs come when the contract's up and maybe train with them but not play, or or will they be allowed to register these players? But in that case, it's certainly makes the league unfair.
I definitely.
Like there's already unfair scenarios. Like we're going to be coming up against Spurs now, and we're going to have they're going to have their players back too. But like if they'd have played us before, they'd have been playing us with no Rashford, no Pogba, and now a full strength squad. Like
there's going to have to be some sort of leeway given, ish, for this sort of carry on. You're going to have to be allowed to.
It could happen somewhere. Like if you're a team, and of course it might be more the team's fault. Like, but if you're a team in the Premier League and say this whole lockdown and break completely unreals your season, like you come back and lose most games from now to the end of the season and end up relegated. Like if you're, maybe a team like Newcastle, who's not really down in the relegation zone, maybe ends up, surely they're gonna.
It's gonna be an awkward time. There's gonna have to be a lot of. They're gonna, it's the rules around football and stuff are quite stringent. There's gonna have to be a laxing of them, maybe like an extended transfer window. And I know that there's been talk of sort of allowing teams. I think Adam Lallana is actually one that's maybe going to be allowed like a sort of month or something extension. I think his contract's up at the end of this year, but they're going to try and give him like an extra month. But then, as you said, does he want to sign that? With the risk of injury and stuff like that. There, it's going to be an awkward the legalities of everything around contracts, around transfers and all that, there is going to be quite.
And like there's probably 100,000 players whose contracts are going to be up, in the world of football, whose professional contracts are going to be up, and the end of and like the 30th of March or whatever the date is, the contracts be up. Like,
it's very complicated because nothing's ever been seen like this before, and you don't really know.
Still no idea what's happening with the transfer window, and what happens too. Do you finish this season at the end of the summer and just go straight in the next season and call the lockdown your summer break? Then you have no transfer, obviously, window time, and it's just, I don't know, the whole. There's a lot to be decided. And then obviously some leagues, like if you're a league like in the French league or the Dutch league, do you maybe open your transfer window up? Your league's finished. Why can you not start signing players and trading players? And then if they're selling, like, maybe you have a target who, at Lille that you're guaranteed that you would be able to sign, and all of a sudden your window's not open, but Ajax's is, and he goes to Ajax,
Well, there's I did want to get talking a little bit, at least, about the money aspect. Maybe not the most interesting topic for football fans, but it is a business. And as we sort of touched on a little bit, you have a revenue stream of gate receipts and stuff like that there that is now match day revenue is no longer a thing. Because games are being played behind closed doors.
For smaller clubs, match day revenue is everything.
Everything. But again, another point of contention going into next season is how do you, as a club like the size of Manchester United, Liverpool, whoever else, the big clubs, how do you sell, because it's this point of the year where they start selling next year's season tickets. We have absolutely, they keep talking about a second spike in around like November and stuff where another lockdown could have happened.
But I know
how do you sell season tickets to to fans when they have absolutely no idea how many games they're going to get?
United have emailed their season ticket holders. One of the fan channels I follow was talking about it, and the way they're working it is you can either get a refund for all the games at the last 7 home games, I think it was, that United would have had left, including maybe one Europa League game that was guaranteed. So we're going to either refund you I think it was worked out to be like 200 and something, or maybe just under 300 quid. So they're either going to refund you that or knock it off the price of your season ticket for next season.
Yeah, but this is the thing, like, is there going to be fans in stadiums, before December or something? Like, you don't know.
Oh, that's
it. So
I know
it's a good thing that United have
done.
Like,
that's what United have done, but Newcastle, like Mike Ashley and Newcastle have not refunded anyone. They've said they're not refunding their fans for the games that they've missed, so they've just lost their money. And that's Mike Ashley and Newcastle's approach. Like,
yeah, it's pretty. But like, how do you sell season tickets next year? So then your next year's revenue is under scrutiny.
But then that's like a lot of people have said, like Woodward's come out and said that this is going to stabilise the transfer market. Like after Neymar, the main Neymar deal blew the transfer market up, this is going to stabilise it. Clubs aren't going to be able to afford £100 million players, so no one's going to be able to sell them. Like, and another thing is a lot of players that were people were saying were guaranteed to go this season won't. Like everyone was saying, this summer that Paul Pogba was going to go for 100 and something million. Who's going to come in and spend 100 and something million on Paul Pogba now? He's at United, and that's it. We're not going to make a loss in him, and we're not going to be able to sell him, so he's there next season whether he likes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something to do with them tickets as well. Like season tickets, there's like virtual season tickets now. I think Scottish League's doing this, where they are going to basically give you like a season ticket, as you would have for normal circumstances. You buy a season ticket, you go to all the home games, whatever. I think what they're going to do, from what I've heard, is that they are going to basically give virtual season tickets out where you can watch every live game from home. So like you pay whatever it is for a season ticket.
Which is what kind of a lot of fans at home have kind of been crying out for anyway, sort of thing, like a season pass thing for your club. But
I'm excited for this when it does restart, that every match, like, it's going to be basically every day there's going to be a match, and, like, it'll be on terrestrial TV as well.
There might be some positives come out of this, like stuff like terrestrial TV possibly picking up a few games a year.
Maybe after this is all said and done, they might, do away with that stupid 3 o'clock kickoff rule, because for anyone who doesn't know, but in the UK they don't show any of the 3 o'clock kickoffs. I know if you're in a different country, America or whatever, you can watch the UK 3 o'clock kickoffs, but here you can't, because they want people to be going to the stadium, and they think that if they showed the 3 o'clock kickoffs on TV, that like match day, like, fans in the stadium would be a lot lower.
Yeah, they also want people playing football too, apparently, and a lot of local teams, Sunday League and all of that's their time to play as well. So there's no reason to stay at home basically to watch games because they're not on.
Yeah.
But yeah, money's a big thing. Another sort of one with the money issue is advertising. I know that a lot of advertising deals, a lot of money's paid up front and stuff like that there, but down the line you don't know how much that's going to impact. And again, it's another revenue stream for big clubs and small clubs that could be narrowed in the coming years. It's a stream that could be affected badly for this. You don't know how much, Liverpool just signed a massive brand deal with Nike. There was also a thing around that there too, that Liverpool are going to lift the Premier League at some point now, and we know this. And New Balance is there was a big thing for New Balance. New Balance was going to have the Premier League winners in their jersey. Liverpool's jersey deal was meant to end on the 30th of June, but they came to some sort of arrangement that Liverpool will play the remaining fixtures with New Balance kits, because we're switching to Nike next year. But it's another one of these things that can come up and it's quite difficult. But
yeah, that's true too. Like there's just so many different ramifications.
There's just gonna have to be a wide berth given to a lot of this stuff. There's gonna have to be, okay, I know that that's a problem, but this is the way we're gonna sort of, there's very stringent rules around different things. We also know that there's financial fair play implications. What happens there? Manchester City, we talked about this in one of the season wrap-ups, that Manchester City are banned from Europe next year. There's another massive revenue stream that potentially is closed for Manchester City, but I want to sort of segue this into the Champions League talk. Is there going to be a European football next year? European money and Champions League money is a massive revenue stream for a lot of teams. It's up. I think Liverpool earned 190 million over the last 2 years, which is a serious amount of dough. And I know the Champions League obviously starts a wee bit later in the year, it's maybe like October time, late September, early October. But how far do we go with international travel now? And one massive thing is, how at this point in time, with the talk of second spikes and everything, how do you finish European competition this year?
I don't know how you go about that, because
plus
because
you can't finish it. You 100% can't finish this year's European competition, because you think about it, some of the leagues have ended. Would it be fair for PSG to go up against Bayern Munich, and PSG not playing football competitively or training or anything? Their season's finished, and Bayern playing week in, week out. You know what I mean? That it can't be finished. For the fairness of the game, unless all the leagues were still going, all the teams were still playing competitive football.
There was talk of
unless they're going to be trying to get PSG just to play friendlies and clubs that like that there.
There was talk of trying to shoehorn the Champions League in prior to the next Champions League season starting. So when that's that August September time where the Champions League doesn't be played, and then it sort of starts around about October time.
But then they're all the qualifying.
Exactly. The year, and you don't know who's getting into Europe. Did the teams cancel the league?
Well, that's
did they null and void it? Did they get the teams?
That's it. Are you gonna do it from where the season's finished, or the seasons are still going? Plus, if there is seasons still going, like right up to the end of the summer, and then some clubs are maybe taking a break and starting their league seasons later, whereas other clubs could be starting their league seasons earlier because they've already null and voided. And I don't know. It's all
very trying to do a wrap up on this, and basically what we're saying is we don't know what the fuck's going to happen, just like everybody else.
We have more questions than answers.
We have no idea. There's definitely truth. The Champions League's definitely a big one. I think that the probability and the likelihood of being able to manage okay and finish league seasons, especially the bigger leagues, England, Italy, Spain, Germany, they're gonna round out their seasons. But how
France League been voided was crazy. I don't know.
There's a lot of financial implications for them sort of leagues, like the Bundesliga and that. But the Champions League just doesn't look like it could be finished in any way, shape, or form. How are you gonna, it's hard enough to keep a controlled ecosystem with the teams that you have just in your league. But if you're, if Liverpool are Liverpool are right now, to be fair, but if United are traveling to wherever, and they then have to go there, come back, what's the measures like? Well, actually, I was going to sort of say, how well are other European countries doing? The UK is doing the worst. So, flipped around, what would Atletico Madrid want to come to England for when there's a whole controversy around that? It's a bad team to probably pick, Atletico Madrid. But, why would Bayern Munich want to come to London when the UK has got, the worst death rate in Europe? What would take them to London, they're exposing their players. And I know that obviously there's going to be stringent testing, we've said that, within the teams and within the ecosystem of the league.
Plus, even for Champions League football, I think these rules are going to stay in place for a while, is that if you fly to another country, you have to do a 2-week quarantine before you're there. So, if you're playing a Champions League game in against Juventus and you're flying over there, you're going to have to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks before you're allowed to play the game.
God knows. It's going to be a nightmare to try and get. I just don't. I didn't see how with, the TV deals and stuff, especially in the Premier League, how they weren't going to, play the season out.
Oh, especially when the talk of pulling some of the money and stuff was brought in.
Exactly.
They knew they had to finish it.
But the Champions League just looks like it'll be an absolute
nightmare.
It doesn't look. I just don't. It's going to be hard enough to keep your own league in order. How the hell are you going to work with European football like?
But the craziest is still, I think, relegation and promotion, because if you're not doing relegation, then you obviously can't do promotion, and the teams that are supposed to be getting promoted, your West Broms, your Leeds, are going to be furious and they'll sue the life out of you. If you do relegation and promotion, the teams ignore it, and that
get another year Premier League money.
But but I mean, like, the team, like,
the integrity of it, like,
yeah.
It's going to be a nightmare. And then there's back to the money implications. Then Norwich get an extra year.
And then Leeds, a team like Leeds who've
invested heavily.
Have invested heavily, and they need this promotion to the Premier League, and this looked like their year, and now that they're going to be told you're not getting promoted, they'll sue.
You could do.
And then there's the added thing within English football that the EFL and the Premier League are two separate entities too.
Yeah,
the Premier League's its own entity, and the EFL's its own entity.
The EFL's already packed it in.
Aye.
So what happens there then if if there's no one getting promoted from the English Football League? It's just.
Was the Championship not meant to start in June?
I think the Championship was, but League 1 and League 2 avoided themselves. Like, so what happens
they're
there?
done.
Like, you're going to relegate it 3 teams from
three teams from the Championship to League 1, and then
you give
no one coming up. So what? League 1's going to have 25 teams next year.
And then and then the other thing is with the Championship and all that, they're sort of carry on. Like, do you just do the top 3 go up then, and you don't do a playoff? So 4, 5, and 6 don't have their playoff opportunity. That they would have had. Like the likes of like Preston and Nottingham Forest, they are doing quite well this year. Teams that have been down there for a long time and they're sitting in the promotion spots.
I've seen a few people say too about possibly promoting the 2 automatic spots, West Brom and Leeds, and doing a 22-team Premier League next season, and then relegating 5 teams instead of 3.
It'd be interesting. Like, but I don't know how it all.
I don't know how it all works.
No,
but
basically we're just throwing out a load of questions here and we don't even know what we're talking about.
No, I think everyone's sort of in the same ballpark. Nobody knows what way it's going to go.
Aye.
It's there's maybe something you could do in terms of, fair enough if the other leagues have sort of shut themselves up, but if you are sort of conflicted, you could maybe the Premier League's going to go ahead, and if it's going to all being well, it'll play out without any implications. They'll play all the remaining fixtures, but maybe you could do something with the Championship where you could have like cut the top 6 off into like a playoff thing, put the top 2 up, and.
But if you have relegation in the Championship, you have no one getting promoted to fill them places because the EFL's already packed it in. And then if you have promotion out of the Championship, well.
Is there going to be less teams and stuff?
Well, I know what you mean. Everything has a knock-on effect, because if you take up the 2 from the one below, the other have to fill it out. The teams that are.
That's it. Like,
or unless.
Just because the EFL have packed it in has really made it, but then the EFL had to pack it in because a lot of the teams and chairmen voted because they can't afford not to. Like, if there's not going to be fans in the stadium, they can't afford to run the lighting for the stadium, pay the grounds people to go, keep the pitch in good nick. Pay, they can't afford to play matches unless there's going to be fans there.
It's even somewhat of a. I suppose we could maybe touch on this at least a little bit. It was obviously them sort of things were obviously a factor and a talking point in the boardrooms of major clubs in the Premier League, because Liverpool and Spurs and I think a few others applied for the furlough scheme to get help basically from the government till
survive.
That was a bad.
A PR disaster for Liverpool, the most socialist city in England, and you decided to go for a furlough scheme.
Yeah, when Mike Ashley did it, nobody batted an eyelid. They expected Mike Ashley to do it.
They expected Daniel Levy to do it too.
When Daniel Levy did it, they were like, a bit dodgy, Daniel, but we know what you're like. And then when Liverpool did it,
the Scousers weren't happy, like.
And then I like how as soon as you did that, we just come out and announced that no one would be getting furloughed. I think it was about 10 minutes after. No one's getting furloughed.
No, Liverpool take the moral victory. Liverpool. The thing is that it's I don't know the ins and outs and workings of big business, but I would assume that applying for that furlough scheme on paper sounds good because it helps you. It'll maybe not then impact your finances as much, and then you can maybe sort of start off on a footing to where you were. So logically, absolutely, ethically horrendous.
Like ethically, if you could afford to pay
Yeah.
the players, you should pay them.
Well, this is it. Like Liverpool have.
Same way, like ethically, if you can afford to pay your staff without signing on to the furlough scheme, you should pay them, and a lot of businesses have.
Yeah. Liverpool were in a good financial situation. FSG balanced the books. They held quite a heavy revenue income from the 2 Champions League runs. They nailed on to win the Premier League title. Their books are good, but even in recent days, you can see the knock-on effect. Liverpool have done a heavy, to gain financial clout, have went heavy with advertising and stuff, and just within the last day or two, it sort of broke that. It looked like Timo Werner was a nailed-on signing for like a cheap 50-60 million signing.
His 49.5 million release clause that's triggered after June or something.
And Liverpool
Now
basically
it
just
looks like
sitting on.
Chelsea's the
Yeah.
front runner, like. Alright.
Yeah, like the Henrys, FSG Sports Group, our sports group, they're not, oligarchy basically. Like they're not the level of Roman Abramovich, and it's sort of as everything that we've said so far, it is a knock-on effect everywhere down the line. If you decide to spend heavily in this, what is the implications of financial fair play with the likes of Man City and stuff like that?
But like a lot of people, like I've seen a lot of United fan channels and things that I would watch talking about how we should really go big this summer because we obviously have the cash there, we have the money, we're no bother of staying within financial fair play, and players are going to be, if you go out and sign 5 or 6 players this year, you could be getting 20 or 30 million off each one of them, then you'd maybe have to pay if you wait another 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's
like this is the perfect summer if you have the money to do your rebuild because teams are broke.
Yeah.
Any mid-table team in every league, even the top leagues, are broke.
No.
There's no money coming in. They need the money.
There's not too many Premier League teams that would be really, really heavily impacted because the money's that ridiculous. But if you go to somewhere like Italy,
even
the
Italy,
the TV revenue's way less.
like even an Italy team like that's going to affect. Even a team like Sampdoria, they're like an Atlanta, teams like that are going to be seriously affected. Like,
yeah,
and you could go in and I'd pick a few players. Great wee Atlanta.
Well, there's what's the silver? Every cloud is a silver lining or something like that.
Well, it's a bad situation, but I think it's good for making the football world wise up in terms of the silly money it pays. Like,
it's going to reset the transfer market. Like, there's not a single club. I don't care if you're Real Madrid or who you are. There's not a club that's going to be able to afford to pay 150, 200 million for a player this summer.
But it's ridiculous.
Liverpool literally pulled the plug on a transfer that looked like it was done deal for 50, just to make sure that their books. And we didn't sign anybody last year. We're saying Takumi Minamino there, but it was for something like 8 million.
Aye.
So obviously, taking precautions for their long-term health financially of clubs. Like, there's going to be serious impacts. It's going to narrow revenue streams everywhere. You don't know how much advertising companies are going to pay you down the line. Are they going to pay you as much because maybe you're not on, you're not getting them, you're not getting as much advertising, you're not getting as much exposure, you're not playing in front of 70,000, 80,000, 50,000 or whatever people every week.
Yeah.
And the direct impacts on them teams, like, aren't you still sponsored by like Chevrolet and stuff, and we're sponsored by Standard Chartered? How much are their businesses directly affected? And then how much can they then afford to offlay to sponsorship, which could be,
well, I know,
do you know what I mean?
I know some car dealerships have laid off hundreds, maybe thousands of like workers, which obviously sales for like car dealerships and all is like way down. So
the whole world's affected. So that all
aye.
Sponsorship revenue and all that, their sort of carry on then becomes affected. Like, so teams even like United that are sort of publicly traded but they rely heavily on.
We're one of the teams that'll come out of this best, and we're not coming out of it great.
No.
Yeah. But it's.
Teams maybe sort of, this is where you would be worried about the sort of likes of maybe like your Man Cities, your PSG.
But this is the perfect time where you can go in and sweep like a Jack Grealish from the cheap, like.
No, absolutely, you got your eye on. But you have your teams like Man City, PSG, and that are backed by oil money and just oligarchy basically, and just have an unlimited bank account and
Newcastle's about to be owned by a country.
Exactly. I think we're definitely we're going to maybe talk a wee bit about that, about sort of what's happening with the Qatar World Cup and the teams that are going to be
sports washing.
But there's definitely implications everywhere. What else did I write down? I think we've covered pretty much most of the stuff. Two things sort of just to round us out. We've went 45 minutes. We knew this one would be a wee bit quicker. There's nothing great to talk about, like Liverpool actually going to win the league, and the sort of panic's over that we won't. The one
You'll
thing
win the league with the asterisk beside it. It'll always be the COVID league.
it's got. Do you know,
Liverpool won that old COVID season.
You don't want to be in that league.
it's not that it. Do you know, the one thing that annoys me about it is it's going to take away from the sort of. I know that there's going to be a taken away from the celebrations and all that. They're just not going to happen. But it's going to take away from the fact that you're going to sort of maybe possibly forget how dominant Liverpool were in the league this year, and it's just going to be like, oh, why they tanked everybody, and then the league stopped for 3 months, and then I had to go back to it, and it's just like a bit of an anticlimax.
Maybe come back and lose all the games.
Lose all the games, still win the league. What do you call it? 2 other things just to sort of wrap us out, boys. They moved the Euros back, so there's going to be there's going to be a good summer next summer, hopefully. And
But even in saying that there, as I was saying, moving the Euros back to next summer is all well and good until you think about it. If this season stretches on to the end of this summer, and then, if your Premier League
runs a bit later.
Yeah, your league seasons then end up having to run a month later, and then you're basically finishing one season, jumping on a plane and flying to the Euros. It's...
And then straight into the season after.
It's going to be a killer for players.
It is. It's going to be a tough one. Like, and if you're in a situation where maybe your squad needs rebuilt, or it's, you're in a situation like that, it's going to be a lot more difficult, that sort of carry on.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But we'll have we were planning to do a pile of Euros coverage and stuff this summer too, boys. But
I was so excited for the Euros.
I suppose we will get the league coverage, but it'll be a bit less. Like,
the
Euros, bit disappointing but they did the right thing. They moved it back to give league teams and leagues the opportunity to finish their seasons out, which is probably the right thing to do. Sort of the last point then is the one other thing that we can sort of talk about is atmosphere. I watched a few of the early Bundesliga games the first couple of weeks, and with no atmosphere, football really is, the spectacle is way down without fans. Like, it's just not the same in any way.
With saying that, I can get enjoyment out of going up and watching my local Sunday League team kick ball.
Aye, but when you've more invested in it and you know that it's the highest level, I think it's just a lot. It's just a lot more.
But see, I seen whenever the Bundesliga started back up, there was a lot of idiots online, who maybe tuned in for the first time to watch the Bundesliga, saying like, how bad it was and all with no fans, but like how bad the standard was and all because there was no fans almost.
No.
Like how bad it was but
it's just a completely different spectacle.
Like a completely different spectacle, and it was.
It's way changed. Like, it's really.
But I remember I watched the Manchester United versus Lynx game, and it was behind closed doors right before lockdown,
No.
And it was a strange one too. Like, and that's the team I follow. Like, it's not, and I still found it hard to get invested at certain points.
You just don't feel like. You just don't feel like you can shout at the TV or something. I don't know. Wee things like getting a throw in or something matter more when there's 50,000 people going to square ball. It's not.
You've no 12th man, like, have you?
No.
Have you seen a couple of the stadiums too putting in like cardboard cutouts of their fans and stuff? I don't know whether that's creepy or not.
I'm not down for that. Actually, one thing that I was they pumped in crowd noise into the games today in the Bundesliga.
I've seen that.
They pumped crowd noise into the games in the Bundesliga today. And it was weird, but it gave me like a wee satisfying thing. Like, you knew it was there. It wasn't just like dead quiet and then somebody going like man on in German. Do you know what I mean? There was crowd noise pumped in the stadiums today, so it felt a wee bit better-ish, kinda. Not really. I don't know.
I seen something like that there too. I seen a wee bit of a game where the crowd noise was added in as an effect, but. What do you do? Like, football's coming back, but it's going to have that be without the fans. That's the only thing. But I think it was one of the boys was saying, maybe Puffer was saying that he actually thought it was kind of an interesting dynamic to watch it now without any fans, because you get to hear a lot of the things exchanged between the players, which would be an interesting thing in the Premier League. Like, maybe hearing things that
even hearing managers shouting instructions on
maybe now they'll hear the instructions.
Jesus Christ, imagine. I haven't heard Klopp like this. This is going to be wild. And you're just going to hear Jurgen going buck on the sideline. Like, that's going to be nuts.
It'll be an interesting dynamic, to say the least. But
I give it 6 months and we're used to it, because like it's going to be every sport. When basketball returns, it's going to have no fans. Football, golf, whatever you watch. I've been watching wrestling. It hasn't went away over this whole thing.
It's rough.
And like wrestling wrestling needs fans far more than football.
It does. It's rough.
And even then, like it's still watchable. Like I got used to it. You know what I mean? Like I find myself, I watch it now and I don't even but before all I could think was, oh, this needs fans. But now I just watch it, I don't even think about fans. You know, I'm used to it.
The WWE definitely needs a lot. Cutting promos with no fans is cringy. But no, football with fans is nothing.
But I
worse
think
than all
give
that
it
carrying
6 months and we'll be used to it. Like you'll be watching a game of basketball or a game of football, and you'll just be used to having no fans. You wouldn't even think about it. Like
NBA is all moving down to Orlando. They're going to do
Well,
all
basketball-
the games in Florida.
I've seen that.
Disney on it.
Well, I think it's going to be all right because everybody's been sort of cracking up at the lack of sport, and now we've got sport coming back, and I
Sport
think
come back every day.
like some of them said it earlier. Some of the game fixtures is going to be real interesting. You're going to have like 3 o'clock kickoffs, 5:45 kickoffs, 8:15 kickoffs. Like that's going to be a nice spread. It's going to be nice to have something to come home to every evening and say, I'm going to tune in for the game tonight.
It'll almost be like the Euros, like, because the Euros have been starting round about now, and you've been getting your,
Euro buzz
2
on.
games in a day, like,
Oh, definitely. That's the only upside, I suppose, is we are going to have football over the summer. Like, it's going to be a bit different. Like, it's definitely going to take away getting
I
used
think
to.
we're going to go absolutely unbeaten from now to the end of the season, grab top 4, no bar at all, what a side, win the league next year.
Bruno
Fernandes and Pogba in midfield, what more do you need, really?
Look at him. He's excited.
Top 4, sure, they might be a fucking Champions League next year, God knows.
Aye, still going to finish top 4.
No. There's other things we got there, like teams having games in hand and all that. They're sort of carrying on, we didn't really cover, but it probably isn't the most exciting podcast we've ever done. As we run 50 minutes, and I think that's enough talking about it. It's a fucking scunner, to be honest.
Right, we'll give you a few answers that we do know, and we probably pose more questions to you than answers, but,
I don't think anybody has the answers to what's going on, really.
No.
I actually thought we'd never see any sport being played this year at all. I'll not lie.
So did I.
I actually would have put money on it. Nothing would be played this year.
Nah. Well, at the same time, I know there's more important things. People have died and all that sort of carry on. It's not sport and football, and we're probably going to cover other topics when we go into the basketball and the NFL and that on other podcasts. And obviously not the most important thing in the world at the minute, but I mean,
it is a good distraction.
It's a good distraction, and
from everything real that is going on. And any of our listeners out there, do stay safe and look after yourselves. Like
Big Dev's worried about you.
I don't want to hear you.
You're a man with the people, Christopher.
Man, especially your people.
But I think we've covered everything that sort of really needs covered there, fellas. I suppose we'll just go into a bit of what we're doing. Obviously things are getting sort of back to normal a wee bit here in Ireland. We got kind of off. We have a lot less people in a lot of places. I think there's more people living in London than there is in the entirety of Ireland. So we've kind of got away with. Obviously, a lot of people have died. It's not nice, but in comparison to other countries, it's been relatively, small.
Yeah.
Things are getting back to normal. We're trying to get back to normal, and we did pick a good time to get a podcast started because we just got interrupted when we were sort of picking up a wee bit of steam. But this is going to be our first football podcast release. We have 2 others recorded. This one will be coming out first, just a general wrap up. Obviously, everything we've talked about there. We will be, well, no point really telling you when we'll be up. This will be up shortly. We're going to be back to our usually scheduled program, and it's nerd content on the Monday, American sports on the Tuesday, and football on a Thursday. So
we might even use a Wednesday for sort of
extra
shorter
content,
or extra content. So maybe throw a couple of quizzes out a week, maybe or a month, and we'll maybe throw a book review out, and then maybe a UFC. We'll try and keep a Wednesday open for smaller sort of 20-30 minute videos. Maybe a couple of quizzes, book reviews, different things. We've been beating a few ideas around, so just stay tuned.
Definitely.
Keep an eye on our Instagram page, and
Instagram's where we do most of our stuff.
That's where we do all our promoting, and you'll see all the information you need and all the upcoming shows and everything on our Instagram page.
The only other news
Irish
is
Guys on Instagram, I believe.
Irish Guys, yeah.
It is.
Obviously, the only other thing is that we're up on Spotify now. It's a big one for us. We're up there. It's obviously a big platform. Everybody listens to it, and so if you're if you're listening and enjoying, if you want to tell one friend, that doubles our listenership, and that would be great for us. Like, it'll be more downloads for us, and we'll keep going. And I would just like to point out that whoever your favorite podcaster is, right, whoever you listen to for your weekly podcast, we're doing more podcasts than them. Just point that out. We're doing 3 a week. We're doing 3 a week.
We're committed. A few podcasters that do daily,
but they don't do like full hour-long podcasts. Maybe like a wee 20-minute video here.
Well, that's true. That's true.
We're doing 3 full hour-long podcasts.
Committed, Dave. We're committed.
We're putting in more effort than Joe Rogan, right? And that man just got 100 million.
Joe Rogan's overrated as shit.
Still in the shed, people. Road till out of the shed.
So we're trying our best, and
help
we're putting
space us out.
Make sure we just don't have to work anymore. That'll be nice. But yeah, so if you can tell, if we cover a lot of content. There's usually something for most people. I know it's a lot of sport, but there's nerd topics and stuff like that. There's going to be books,
there's movies,
maybe music,
there's video games,
all that kind of
books. If you look back through your archives, you'll find that no matter who you are, there's something you like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if there's something that you like, there's something that your friends like, tell them. Maybe they'll start listening and they'll maybe have an interest in some of the other stuff we cover.
Yeah, that's it.
Aye, but that was good tonight, fellas.
Good.
We're nearly close to being back to where we're at, and we'll get the hell out of here.
Right.
Thanks very much, folks, for listening.
Good luck.
Good luck.